Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome to this session. Today we are going to focus on the role of government in an economy. And the previous sessions, our focus was mainly on a market-based economy and using the supply and demand framework. That is the market mechanism framework. We saw that the market clears and the price is set. Price is automatically set by the free play of demand and supply. However, if we leave the market to completely to work in its own, sometimes the fairness, the egalitarian principle may be compromised. In that context, sometimes we need government interventions. So businesses operate within broader environments shaped by technology, culture, critically the government policies as well. So keeping this in mind, especially the role of government is very vast in these days, and these days we say government are welfare agents. So their objective is to maximize social welfare. So governments, as you know, it define rule of the game, it regulate markets and enforce contracts and address market failures such as environmental pollutions and affecting factors adversely affecting public health, and promote fairness and protect vulnerable groups through so many social security measures, programs and policies, and support innovation and economic developments. In that way, you know that government has much larger role to play in any economy. So the key questions reflect on here is that why fix minimum wages or cap on prices of medicine? What is the rationale behind it? Suppose if government is not implementing minimum wage or not giving the cap prices on medicine, how is it going to affect economy? Should essential goods be taxed, like food items, should it be taxed? And when is subsidy more effective than a price cut? So instead of reducing the price, can we give a subsidy? So these are the key questions that over the sessions, not only in these sessions, over the sessions, across the sessions, you will come to know, get a better understanding of these questions. So why this matter for business strategy? That is a critical aspect for us, because understanding the why and how of state intervention help firms, it will help the firms to adapt to policy shifts. For example, when the government is reducing the money supply or increasing the money supply, when they're changing the rate of interest, or if they're imposing more and more tax, or if there's a tax cut. So this actually the firm need to predict what are the likely changes. Then based on that, they can adapt to these policy shifts. And also firms can align with the regulatory environment so that firms can work based on the legal framework that is given, regulatory framework, and meeting all the objectives, and based on that they can perform better and strategize in politically and economic dynamic context. So these are all the key aspects why this matters for business strategy. So keep this in mind, and to answer, understand, get to delve into more on all these aspects. Now we are going to discuss the various concepts related to the business environment here. One is technological environment for business, socio-cultural and demographic environment, political and government environment. So after discussing these, we are going to see what are the rationale for government intervention and what are the degree of government interventions, and then what are likely effect of such intervention on various economic parameters. So coming to the first one, technological environment, this seems to be so simple for you because now we are living in a technologically advanced environment. So we don't need much introduction to technology, what is technology and all. However, just to put it in a context, to set the stage, technology is the application of knowledge to production, which can happen in various ways. So the technological environment can be seen as encompassing both the creation of new knowledge and its application to improve business efficiency. So that overall there is increase in production, employment, and overall increase in standard of living and quality of life. So when it comes to technological development, there are broadly two strands of research. One is called basic or experimental research, and the second one is more applied research, where seeks the best ways to develop these ideas into commercial commodities. So invention occurs when new ideas about product or production methods arise. And there are broadly two types of innovation, the invention leading to two types of innovation. One is called product innovation and the other one is called process innovations. So product innovation improves or enhances original invention, and process innovation develops production process that enable the original invention to build into more marketable and profitable products and services. So we have millions of examples for technological development. So the world that we are living, we know that we are surrounded by technological advancement, and these are all the examples. Just to put a context, I'm just giving a few examples here. And one of a well-known expert in the field, Porter, he presented the value chain and by explaining the role of technology in value creation. So to him, every business activity that transforms inputs into outputs presents an opportunity to apply technology in ways that efficiency and then add value to the production process, and then add value addition, and then as a result there is increase in production of goods and services, employment, and quality of life, standard of living of people. So there are mainly, the value chain consists of two broad categories of function. One is called support function. This is horizontal. These enable and enhance the core operations of a firm, including infrastructure, human resources, technology development, and procurement. And then we have a vertical primary business function. So these involve direct creation and delivery of products and services, including inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and services. So when it comes to technological innovation, in 1934, Joseph Schumpeter, he introduced the idea called creative destruction. Normally, we think about destruction in a negative way, but to him, there can be creative destruction. Actually, innovation by the entrepreneur leads to the gales of creative destruction, as innovation cause old inventories, old ideas, old technology, skills, equipment, everything to become obsolete. For example, you can just know that, for example, the film camera is now replaced by the digital camera. So then the innovation in the case of digital technology, that actually distracted or killed the film camera industry. But at the same time, that destruction is productive, that is creative, because now it became, that the advantage of digital camera, how easy now the recording and the value addition it has been creating for the society and economy. So in that means killing, or we always need, once we've had any invention, and we need to have another invention that replace the existing invention. So that kind of invention is always welfare oriented, though sometimes in the short run it may damage, it may harmful to some people, those who are directly getting affected. For example, a new firm coming up with digital technology, digital camera, definitely obviously you know that the companies, those who have been using film camera, that company has to get closed, shut down, but that is happened because of the new technology came into existence. So this one is called creative destruction, that is often considered as good for the economy in the long run. So creative destruction involves introducing new ideas, products, technologies that replace existing ones. So the process involves intense competition between old and new technologies or products. So in this case, the entrepreneurs who develop new products and technologies and disrupt existing markets are the agents of creative destruction, and they exist in the market. And those firms and entrepreneurs who cannot compete with the new technology, they will exit the market. So coming to the effects of technological change. So straightforward, easily you know that improvement in technological change is always good. That is the idea that we are having. Because when look around, we say that it's all going to improve productivity, improve employment, and it also has implication on inequality. Sometimes maybe it may worsen inequality or it may reduce inequality, and similarly the market power of firms. So the successful use of technology potentially improves the performance of businesses in terms of performance and productivity. So raises general prosperity for all. So there is a heterogeneous body of literature that is showing mixed effects across various country settings, various sectors, and population growth. Because in some cases, you know that overall, it's shown that it improves economic growth because it increases the productivity of labor. You know that the laborers working with the more advanced machines technology, then their productivity will be enhanced. And similarly, it improves employment. But in case of inequality, in some cases, it increase employment. But sometime in the short run, you can see that the mechanization or the advancement of technology would lead to unemployment. More robot or office automation would lead to unemployment. But at the seam overall, looking at the macro data, we see that there is evidence of increasing employment as well. Similarly, inequality. Suppose if more and more people are unemployed, then obviously you know that their income will be reduced. At the same time, the people who use more technology, they will be having more command in the economy on their decision making, and their income will be increased. Then it will be worsening income inequality. But that's a theoretical prediction. But what the empiric says, it depends. And moreover, the market power, the e-commerce firms and local traders, because of the technological advancement, you can see that the market power has changed. It becomes very intense. Mainly for e-commerce firm, they are having access to vast market these days as compared to local traders. Local traders have to compete with the e-commerce, the large technological giants. So I am presenting you some research evidence I'm just presenting only some of the some abstract, and most of these papers you can download from the web. So what is show? Technological change and economic growth. There are lots of analysis. For example, this paper say that the use of new technologies paves the way for production of new, cheaper goods and for capital accumulation, and for that matter, for an enhanced international competitiveness of individual countries, as well as to an enhanced quality for scientific research institution, while on the other hand, contributing to cultural and political development of society. So overall, the quality of growth rates is as much important as their sizes. So this are actually giving very mixed effects. I have some more findings from studies. For example, here, effects of technological change on productivity and economic growth. There are lots of literature. Some literature, they strongly argue that technological changes is a key generator of economic growth. Based on rigorous theoretical and empirical work, they have shown that technological progress has been accelerating the pace of economic growth. And I'm showing you some more. This is just for you to review, just to give you some more idea. So one, for example, I mentioned here that the evidence is heterogeneous. It's not showing that the technological change and employment is not that theoretical. One way we can say that technological improvement, if there is more office automation and robot use of more technology and machines, that will replace labor, and we can see that that is going to reduce employment opportunities. What is one theoretical prediction? And the second one is that if you are using more and more technology, that will give the more opportunity for skilled workforce. So that will improve employment opportunities, and that would benefit, that will increase employment as a whole. overall. So in this way, you can say there's a mixed evidence. Theoretically, in some contexts, is going to reduce the employment. In some sectors or contexts, is going to increase the employment opportunities. So this, by doing the study research, more and more research using data, we can say that what kind of evidences that we are getting, in which sector is going to improve, the employment has increased, and in which sector employment has declined, and which population group, whether skilled or semi-skilled or highly skilled, who are going to benefit out of this, whose employment has increased, whose employment has declined. All this will be clear by going through the research evidences. We are going to get more and more clarity on this by going through the research papers. Then moving to another component of business environment, that is called socio-cultural and demographic environment. This also a critical aspect of overall business environment and economic environment and business strategy. So coming to socio-cultural and demographic environment in an economy, the first, there is social environment, all factors and trends related to groups of people, including their number, characteristics, behavior, growth projection. All these are going to affect the business environment. Then the cultural environment. The cultural environment refers to the factors and trends related to how people live, and what they buy. So all these are the cultural environment. This includes the values, ideas, attitudes, beliefs, and activities of specific population and subgroup. All these cultural environment also matters in the business decision making. So simply because when firms operate in an economy, in a society, so the people, the attitude, the cultural environment in which the company is operating, so that affect them. So whether the people are more generous or more respecting others' opinion, and or more friendly people, or more having a better attitude and beliefs, all these matters, the social harmony, all these matters for the business environment. And the demographic environment also part of the socio-cultural and this broader environmental picture. For example, the age cohorts, the demographic profile, family structure, demographic population shifts, educational characteristics, and population diversity. So, for example, in a society, when there are more and more elderly population, so that will have an impact on the business environment. And similarly, the family structure, how the bonding and what the family size, whether joint family or joint family or micro family. Similarly, the educator, whether the population is highly educated or illiterate. And similarly, population diversity and different cultural group living together. And all these matters in the overall business environment. So just for example, the socio-cultural and demographic factors, just to highlight this factor, what if there is in a society, because when economic growth takes place, you know that now aging is a factor. More and more elderly population in the society is going to be an opportunity or challenge. We don't know exactly, but what we can see here is that one point is that in a society there are more and more elderly population. So one theoretical prediction is that when people live longer, then they will, of course, they save more. More saving means more capital is coming to the finance market. That means the firms are getting more fund at a reduced rate of interest, because more fund is coming to the market, the rate of interest will decline. So as a result, you know that the firms will get very cheap external funding. That is one way of prediction. Another way of prediction is that if elderly population is there, then as a result, the present consumption will be declining. There will be decline in consumption. So as a result, the aggregate demand for the firms will decline. Then that may adversely affect their production and their investment as well. So in that way, we can interpret in different way how socio-cultural and demographic factors is going to affect firms and businesses. So I am providing you some more research insights. For example, this study analyzes 3 groups of factors affecting entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs' perceptions of opportunity. They analyze social, cultural, and economic variables. So they analyze how these factors affect on entrepreneurship. So among all these things, for example, social, cultural, and economic, and social and cultural factors won't change instantly or promptly. But at the same time, the economic factors, especially economic policies, it often changes. So in that way, social and cultural factors changes are more predictable because it will take time for a drastic change. But economic variables, they are not that less predictable. Moving further, I have some more screenshot of abstract and just give some insight. For example, cultural determinants of customer and learning oriented value system and their joint effects on performance. Then we have other kind of environment called political and government environment. Here mainly the interdependence of business and government we can examine. Then here we can analyze the variation within liberal democracies, different types of political regimes, and disparities in levels of economic development in the modern world. In the next session, we can discuss some critical areas of government interventions and their implications on business. So coming to the interdependence of business and government, the government involvement in economic life is a feature of all capitalist and mixed economies, though its precise nature and scope vary considerably between different societies. So what I'm going to saying here is that, especially in traditional capitalist society, the level of government intervention is minimum. But in the case of mixed economies means it shows the features of both capitalism and socialism. There the level of government intervention is very high. And politics and business are not separate, but interdependent. In some ways, business depends on governments. If government is very stable and business friendly, and then the business is going to thrive. And at the same time, government in some ways depend on business. If the business condition is worse and government revenue declines, and there is because of when overall business environment is very poor and very adverse, then pessimistic way, then you know that the overall production will be less, new investment will be less, and overall there will be decline in employment opportunities, and also there will be decline in government revenue. So that means then government also will be, if business conditions is going to be worse, the conditions of the government is also going to be to deteriorate. So in that way, the main point here is that both business and government, they are highly interdependent, and one need the other for its existence. So the role of government here is that government determines the legal framework within which business operates, and it influences and determines the scope of market relationship and balance or mix between market and other sectors, and relates to private sector business as a significant customer. And not only as a customer, it also relates private sector business as a provider of services and resources. And it also the government manages the macroeconomic environment through its economic and public policies, including fiscal policy, monetary policy, foreign trade policies, and similarly several public policies including social and welfare policies. And the government also represents business interests overseas. So these are the key areas of intervention by governments. So when it comes to the forms of government intervention, there are various forms of government intervention. One is called regulation. Regulation is one of the key form of government intervention. You know that government intervene in the form of framing regulation for corporate governance, relation with the employees, relations with customers, the consumer protection, and relation with the investors, especially in the finance market, to ensure transparency and disclosure. Government, for example, set up SEBI. And similarly, in the banking sector, Reserve Bank of India regulate the banking system. And then there is to ensure competitive behavior and relationship. For that, there is competition policies are there. and also there is governance regulation on merging and acquisition of firms, and impacts on third parties, environment. There also government comes with various environmental laws. Apart from regulation, government intervene in the form of taxation and subsidy, and government also gives various public services such as education, health and social care and income support. Government as a customer also, that government is not only a service provider, it also become a customer for the government, other agencies, and it manages economy, maintains law and order. And that government come up with various public and economic policies. Public policies mainly several social security policies. Economic policies means mainly monetary, fiscal and foreign sector policies, foreign exchange rate policies. And coming to government in an economy, there are various forms of government intervention. One extreme form of government intervention is mainly in socialist or communist regimes. There is full government control in socialist countries, communist countries. There is full government control and each and every elements of the economy, including the price settings, quantity setting, wage settings, and deciding what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. All are determined. Most of these are decided by the government. And in socialist regime, the means of production, land, capital, and other means of productions are under the public ownership. And the stated objectives is social welfare. However, biggest consists inefficiency because there is no private motive, no profit motive. So everything is done for a collective business. So there is often inefficiency is a side product of communist regime. So price list is prepared by the governments and basic economic questions, and everything is answered by the government. What to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce, everything is decided by the governments. So for example, just to mention here, China initially it was a fully socialist economy, a communist political system, but these days since 1980s they rely on market socialism. That means they are actually not a fully government control, is actually they also rely on market in their economic sphere. So the degree of government intervention, there is the earlier one, the typical, the capitalism means there is no government intervention. But over time, the most Western countries, they move to liberal democracy. So in the liberal democracy, what they say that believe that there should be government intervention. They believe in minimal state. Minimal state means the level of government intervention in the most economic decisions are minimal. They won't intervene in the firm's price setting. But government will intervene to ensure the development state, to ensure overall welfare of the society. And especially in these days, there is more social democratic state. That means the most capitalist society, the Western world in these days, they are more liberal and they come up with a more welfare oriented liberal capitalist framework they apply. So what we have covered so far is government intervention. We said that it shapes business environment by regulation, taxation, subsidies, and legal framework. And technological change we touched upon, and then we'll discuss political system and institutions. And understanding these dynamics helps firms adapt strategy to regulatory and policy landscape. So in the next session, we are going to discuss in depth what are the different kinds of government interventions and how this is going to affect various economic parameters. And see you in the next session, and thank you.